This is Brett Waltemath of Star Watch Media reporting to you in Dallas, Texas for the 2012 Dallas International Film Festival. Appreciate it. The other dream team, now this has been described as the greatest sports story never told until now. First of all, can you please discuss a little bit about the project and also just how it's been embraced nationally and also in Lithuania?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Marius and I first met about this 3 plus years ago, and he's Lithuanian, and I had been producing. I had produced a ESPN film and had a lot of experience doing production, and I followed the story when it happened and was always thought it was fascinating, and basically we met at lunch, and I think about a week later started planning our first trip to Lithuania, and then went a month later, and then that process just took shape over the next 2+ years, and then ultimately we were able to get financing by a philanthropic entity in Lithuania that's actually headed by the stars of the film, Šarūnas Marčiulionis and Arvydas Sabonis. And we're grinding, and we're fortunate enough we got accepted to the Sundance Film Festival, and it's we're really been humbled is the best word to describe it by the reception we've gotten, and it'll hopefully be in theaters. We're not sure of the exact date, but later this summer.
And premiering at Sundance, receiving a nomination for Grand Jury Prize this year, what was it like immediately right out the gate to receive the amount of acclaim that it has?
Oh, it was unbelievable. I mean, Sundance was, just like a magical ride, and just such a adrenaline rush. We screened the movie 9 times out there, 6 times part of the regular jury competition. 3 times we screened to high school students. They have a program where they screen high school kids, and they really seemed to respond well to the movie. And then the critical reaction was awesome. I mean, we had really great reviews from the Reporter and the Variety and a lot of publications. So, and I just had people coming up at the Q&As at the film. Most touching to me was, like I had a mother come up to me, an American woman from Utah who has 5 kids, and she just came up and said, there's so much negativity out there today on TV and in movies, and like we need more. She's like, I'm not a basketball fan, and I didn't know anything about this, but it really moved me, and we need more stories that are positive and have this positive message and freedom and hope and so forth. So it's been really humbling to see the reaction.
Donnie, were you aware after the victory in the medal round over the USSR how monumental of a victory that was going to be for the country, not in just taking a bronze medal in the Olympics, but just for the country in total after just gaining its independence? Were you aware of how monumental a victory that was for its citizens?
We knew exactly what we were getting into. When you've got Lithuania 3.5 million and they take down the big bear, the Soviet Union, and then they've been occupied for 40 plus years. The impact of that game was, our guys went into that. There's no way we could have lost that game. The pressure on the players was beyond words. So when we won it, and the president of the country that stood up against those Russian tanks entered the locker room, sang the national anthem, wasn't a dry eye in the locker room. We all put the Lithuanian Grateful Dead T-shirts on, put it on.
And we'll get a shot of that really quick. And I was going to also ask about the Grateful Dead's involvement and how important they were in the Olympic run.
They were pivotal because the country of Lithuania was bankrupt. We couldn't afford to, we'd have to hitchhike down to Barcelona without their help. They sent us a nice check. They sent us these boxes of tie-dye T-shirts, and we wore them on the medal stand as a tribute to Jerry and the boys when they believed in us when nobody else would.
I believe they also approached you, that they kind of found out the story of that Lithuania had qualified and were underfunded, and I believe they also approached you guys about wanting to send you a check and help fund your trip.
No, it was rock and roll sporting history. We were literally going, to any high school that was give us $100 to hear our cause, and George Shirk, who was a beat writer for the Golden State Warriors at the time, picked the story up, and he wrote something about myself and Šarūnas, and sure enough, we got a call from the Grateful Dead publicist, and we went over there, and Jerry Garcia and the boys got us in a smoky room, and kind of hard to function in that room, but we got a 2 thumbs up, and they sent us a nice check and supported us, and the rest is rock and roll history.
Caught them in a good mood that day.
Absolutely. Well, they were always in a good mood back then.
For all of you, what would you really like the audience to take away from this documentary? What's the most important aspect of this documentary that you'd like to see them all take?
I think that, I mean, it's a good question. I think the most important thing is, that individuals can overcome enormous obstacles that are larger than them and it might seem insurmountable, state-funded politics and things like that. And then also, that sports can really be, it sounds trite and a cliche, but sports can really be a vehicle for change. It actually can. It doesn't always have to be about contracts and labor agreements and who's getting fined and who's winning. There is sometimes, when the forces align, a larger thing at work.
And for you, sir?
I think just that, people around the world can hopefully realize that the fight for freedom is really worth it. It's really hard, and I think it's relevant today. Things happening in the Middle East, like these little countries that are, bucking an oppressor and want their own individual freedoms, and countries like Libya and Egypt, and you get that freedom if you're successful, and then it gets even harder, and that's what happened in Lithuania. They received their independence, and things actually got worse before they got better. It's changing a system that has been in place for 50 years. Is just a catastrophic change. It's just it takes time, and this event was one of the first things that they could really be proud of and lift their heads up and all come together and be united. And so I think that Lithuania, if the people can see the movie and see this country as an example of 20 years later how much progress you can make in that time, from nothing to a thriving country, part of Europe. Educated people, and they still have a ways to go in a lot of ways, but it's amazing how far they've come in that short a time. So,
Donnie, what were not only what you'd like the audience to take away from the film, but also what was the greatest learning experience you took from being there firsthand and experiencing it?
They're one and the same. This film is a roller coaster of rock and roll meets sports. Historical documentary. It's an unbelievable film, and it gives the average American out there a real appreciation of the price of freedom.
Don, really quickly, I'd like to congratulate you because you received word a couple weeks ago that you'll be joining an elite group in the Basketball Hall of Fame. Congratulations. What does that mean to you, sir, to be joining that elite group?
Well, it means a lot, but it's, the sacrifices that the Lithuania team and the Lithuanians, they gave their lives, and players could have given their lives, would have given their lives for the cause. And this is what the story is about, and I think the main thing is the story, certainly not about me.
And I really hope that, especially here in this nation, through watching this film, we'll gain a bigger appreciation for the elite athletes and coaches that we have in this nation. Thank you all, gentlemen. Wonderful, wonderful documentary. Enjoy the Dallas International Film Festival. Thank you, sir.